Welsh Tyranny, sadly, has won by one vote after Wales has decided to implement vaccine passports due to one Tory MP or MS experiencing a glitch, a technical glitch. So, as you can see here from the Telegraph, people in Wales will be forced to show COVID-19 vaccine passports for nightclubs and sporting events after a Conservative member of the country's parliament failed to log on for a knife-edge Zoom vote, it has emerged. Gareth Davies, who was attending the Tory party conference in Manchester at the time, said he could not appear remotely for the Tuesday evening vote on the measure because of technical difficulties. But staff at the Welsh Parliament, or Senedd, dispute that, saying that they made every effort to get in touch with him so that he could cast his vote. Mandatory COVID-19 passes in nightclubs and large sporting events are now due to come into force across Wales on Monday, which was...
So is that this week?
That was this week, so right, Monday the 11th, so they've already come into effect after the measures were agreed by 28 to 27 votes. And it says here that if the opposition members of the Welsh Parliament had taken part, the Welsh government would have had lost in a tie with the Tories, Lib Dems, and played... It's Welsh, so I apologise. Played Cymru.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's pronounced that, but
it's Welsh. I
have been corrected on this myself.
I should learn to expect the unexpected. They would have all opposed the scheme, and the strange thing being that Ellen Jones, the presiding officer, basically told him, you don't need to get into the Zoom call if you want to cast your vote. Here's my phone details so that you can contact us and cast your vote over the phone. So it's very strange that he was unable, as far as I can tell, to...
Looks like a bit of a hornswoggle, doesn't it?
A little bit. So if we skip over to what he was saying on Twitter, this is what he said, I think the day of the vote, which was a statement that he gave publicly on Twitter. As you can see here, I've had so many emails and messages from Vale of Cloud.
I have no idea
maybe.
how to pronounce that.
Vale. Yeah. I'm going to say Cloud just as a safe guess. Which is the constituency that he resides over. Residents over the past few days to oppose vaccine passports in Wales. To confirm, I'll be opposing the Welsh government's proposal for vaccine passports in Wales in the vote today. This legislation will make an unfair and two-tiered system. And on the Twitter thread beneath it, he explicitly stated, I won't advocate for subjecting the Vale of Cloud residents to a second winter of misery and despair.
No. And the fact that this is even being voted on, I think is awful.
Absolutely.
Like it's unbelievably immoral that this is being done, but that's my opinion.
Yes. How they managed to get this up to a vote, I don't know. But then, obviously,
why
happened...
the people of Wales have voted for, half of the parliament to be...
Not the people... 56 in total.
Yeah, but the people of Wales put those people in their positions to be like, they voted for these lunatics.
Yeah.
Now they're getting this because of a technical glitch, and it's like, right.
Yes. And if you skip over again, this is the statement that he made after the vote. I'm deeply upset, frustrated, and angry at last night's events and my inability to cast a vote against vaccine passports. Yesterday evening IT challenges meant that I was unable to access the voting system. Throughout the voting period, I was speaking with the Chief Whip and Welsh Conservative staff members in an attempt to solve the IT issues. The Senedd system currently operates under a hybrid system that means only half of our representatives can vote in the chamber, with others voting remotely from elsewhere. You could have just called them, mate.
Yeah.
You had the number. You could have just given them a phone call. I was working and representing the group at the Conservative Party conference, and would have been able to vote remotely if I'd been able to access the remote viewing tools. Concerns have been raised with the Senate's ICT department. So that's it. That's what you said. Blame the IT guy.
But basically. I mean, at the end of the day, if that was the case, surely like an allowance could be made. Well, there was a technical glitch, so he was prevented. So what was his vote? Can we just add it at the end?
Yeah. It does all come across a little bit suspiciously, doesn't it?
Oh, no, the rules say, sorry, no, just because, like if this was an honest, fair-minded system, surely you'd do that.
Yeah, it's a pretty spectacular bungle, if it is a bungle.
Yeah.
They've been, as I've said, implemented from Monday the 11th and will apply to any nightclubs playing music between midnight to 5 a.m., which, when you think about it, means that they will include venues traditionally not seen as nightclubs, as well as the large sporting events and stuff like that. So if you're a music venue or anywhere like that, you're likely going to have to implement them as well, potentially. And if we skip over again, Dank has already made a video on this, and he's actually pointed out that Scotland has already implemented this.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Yes, and in this little video here, which you should check out, he mentions what the implementation has already meant for Scotland.
Oh, go on.
Which is that it's not stopped people from meeting up. It's just meant gigantic queues for every nightclub and people just showing up and going, oh, I'm not going there then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I saw that the nightclub industry themselves were opposing this. Obviously.
I mean, why would you support it?
Well, exactly. You're saying, well, you're going to just... I mean, it's not like nightclubs are doing brilliantly anyway. Like, you can see... I mean, we can see this in Swindon itself, right? Go back 10 years, Swindon had a booming nightclub scene, and they're all gone. They're all gone. And I can't imagine things around the rest of the country are doing much better. And so if you're a nightclub owner, you're going to be like, oh, God, yet another problem that's going to kill our industry off.
And like what we heard earlier, it's going to put the people, actually turning people away in potential risk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And plus, just as somebody, if you're on a night out, you're with a few friends, even if you do all have your vaccine passports, you go to the nightclub and it's rammed and you can't get in there within half an hour or so.
Yeah. How long are you waiting?
Yeah. How long are you willing to wait?
Yeah.
Is the thing. So, of course, it's going to be very detrimental to the business.
What a terrible idea.
Yes, absolutely. So it appears that England is surrounded by these by countries implementing
by
this.
The Celtic nations
Yes.
who have all decided, we're pro-tyranny.
Freedom? Nah, in the bin.
William Wallace, who's that?
Exactly. So it does
God.
it does raise a little bit of the question. It does raise a little bit of the question at the moment of how long is the Conservative government going to hold out?
Well, I really wonder.
The famously strong Conservative government.
Yes, they're known for their iron spines.
Exactly.
Yes.
So if we skip over, you can see that Nadim Zahawi has already been making mention of certain things that aren't specific but seem to be pointing in a particular direction.
Setting the foundations for it, right?
Yeah. So this article in itself is a bit strange because it's a little bit of a puff piece. It goes on about his history and he was bullied when he was younger and all this sort of stuff. But it makes mention of stuff like here saying that having entered Parliament in 2010, he had to wait a long time to get into the cabinet. He rose to prominence as vaccine minister at the height of the pandemic when his networking skills came into play.
Is that the same way that everyone ends up in the cabinet?
Yes, but
obviously,
it doesn't paint a great picture.
No.
of the parliamentary process, but that's how it works. But he's stated here already the number of children off school has risen by 50% to 204,000 in the past fortnight, making it sound like that's all COVID's fault. And he was asked, does he think it will get worse and could schools close again? My focus is to protect education in the way that we protected the NHS, to keep those schools open. The attendance is just about 90%. I will have to keep a very close eye on the infection rates. We have contingency plans in place. What are those contingency plans? And he makes a mention here, millions of children aged 12 to 15 have been vaccinated in Europe and America.
But the government scientists came out and said that they shouldn't do that.
Yes, but they're not great fans of that particular piece of guidance.
We're not trusting the science
No.
now that's against the idea of vaccinating children. Right?
Yes, I mean, he did state, in my view, it's the right thing to do to protect their mental well-being and education.
But not to prevent COVID, not protect them against the disease.
And yeah, I mean, it does come across like a threat.
Yeah, it does.
As most things do. We need to protect your children's mental well-being, and if you don't do what we say, we'll lock them up in their homes where their mental well-being will do great, I suppose.
Well, we know it got worse over the lockdowns.
Exactly.
And that's bad for their education as well. So, it does come across like a threat, doesn't it?
It does. But let's contrast this, how the UK is doing, which is not well, with how Scandinavia is doing, which seems to be pretty well in all regards to this.
Right, okay.
As you can see here, Norway has, from the 25th of September, decided to remove all lockdown restrictions. They stated the country will remain in an increased state of preparedness, but all national coronavirus measures will end. This includes the advice to keep at least 1 meter distance away from others, the capacity limit on public and private spaces, and restrictions on opening times for bars and restaurants. The short version is, we can now live as normal, said Prime Minister Erna Solberg. That makes note that local restrictions could still be in place where you live, and you can check out your municipality if you're in Norway. But when the authorities' advice and rules essentially disappear, the individual can choose for themselves what risk they want to take and what measures they want to practice, said the government in a press release. How liberal of them. The rule changes follow a similar approach to the one taken by Denmark 1 month ago. Obviously, that would be August at this point. Denmark's government lifted all national restrictions, but kept some of its entry rules in place, especially for unvaccinated travellers, which seems relatively reasonable to me. It is interesting to me whether Norway will keep this in place, given that I think the government will be changing over soon. They had a conservative government that's removed all these restrictions, but a recent election, the coalition between the Labour, Centre and Socialist Left parties has won. So
again, people get what they vote for.
Exactly. We'll see
Why
how
are you
long
voting for these lunatic leftists?
We'll see how long the freedom and the respect to let people make their own decisions lasts.
And I imagine conservative is not a very right-wing perspective in Norway.
I'd imagine not, knowing how the people look up to those countries.
Yes.
But yeah, the mandatory use of quarantine hotels is to be used, and children under 18 will no longer have a quarantine obligation, but will still require a test at the border. And the government is stressing the pandemic is still not over. We are lucky to live in Norway because we have vaccinated many, but there will still be a pandemic in the world for a long time to come, maybe for several years. The director of Health, Espen Nakstad, said he urged people to still take care and stay home if they feel ill and get tested if they show any symptoms. So they are just letting people decide for themselves, make up their own mind about what risk they're feeling, because unlike certain countries, you could say, they seem to have an actual respect of the efficacy of the vaccinations. I mean, if we've got such a large percentage vaccinated, then we should just be able to lift all the restrictions.
I mean, I thought that was the purpose of the vaccines.
Exactly.
You know, and as far as we can tell, and we can see this in Britain's own COVID numbers, I mean, it seems that the vaccines did work.
Yeah.
You know,
from what we've seen, and from what I've seen myself as well, since they've lifted the restrictions, Norway's positive cases have just gone straight down.
Great.
So it appears that they took the right choice.
Yeah. Spicy take. The vaccines worked. Open up.
Immense. YouTube, please.
Yeah, exactly. Give us a break, YouTube.
Yeah. And we can see...
It's so ridiculous.
I know.
Anyway, go on.
Yeah, we can see how people are reporting on this. I first heard about this from Peter Sweden on Twitter, who just posted this a while back. Denmark removed all restrictions, no COVID passport requirements. Sweden will remove practically all restrictions, no COVID passport. Norway removing all strict restrictions tomorrow. This tweet was before then. No COVID passport requirements. So just stating the facts from what you can see.
Yep.
And is it Reuters? Is that how you pronounce it?
It is pronounced Reuters.
Yes. Reuters said no. Actually, there's some misinformation there.
Oh.
Some users on Twitter replicating the text on social media commented that it suggests these countries stopped believing in the existence of COVID-19.
What?
Or the worth of public health measures like face mask wearing and vaccines. And
how can you take that from Peter's tweet?
It's a very reasonable tweet that you can see there.
That's just a statement on policy positions. Removed all restrictions, no passport. Remove all restrictions, no passport. Remove restrictions, no passport.
Yeah.
That's not a commentary about the belief in COVID.
I mean, the Reuters goes on to conclude it's missing context. Denmark, Sweden, and Norway ended all or most of its COVID-19 related restrictions due to an epidemic control and a high vaccination rate, not because they stopped believing in the pandemic or vaccination efforts, as claimed on social media. Who said that?
Well, Peter certainly didn't say that.
Yeah. Who said that? Nobody related to this particular article.
Nobody they've listed anyway in the article.
Yeah, nobody that they've listed has said that, but they're still reporting it as if it's misinformation.
Yeah.
So Peter himself had something to say about this.
Good for him.
Which is that the Reuters fact check falsely claimed that one of my tweets is missing context. And in the thread, if you go down, he states here, Reuters did actually have several factually incorrect statements in their own article.
Well, this wouldn't be the first time.
I know. They claim that 73.3% of the Norwegian population is fully vaccinated. Actually, it's 68.5%, according to official Norwegian sources. And further, Reuters claims in their articles that Norway introduced a vaccination certificate certificate in June for holders to enter events in Norway. Reuters does not mention that these COVID passports are now not required to enter events as all restrictions have been removed. So absolutely BTFOing the so-called fact checkers and giving an example there that apparently people are right that maybe we should take a bit more of a Scandinavian approach to some things in policy. But yeah, so Wales is going down the drain.
Following the Scottish model.
Following the Scottish model, and maybe we could learn something from the Scandinavians after all.
Great point.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full thing at 1 p.m. every weekday at lotuseaters.com, or you can sign up to get access to all the premium content we have on the site.
Yeah, we've got loads of really good stuff. Every week we have a Contemplations and Epochs episode that goes up, and in the Contemplations we talk about just interesting things, and the Epochs episodes are probably my favourite because I love talking about history. This latest one is we're doing a bit of a series on the 100 Years' War and why England kept winning. And we've not finished it yet, and you're going to really enjoy the end of that one. But we've also got other excellent episodes that we do, like the book club. The most recent one was Shooting an Elephant by George Orwell. This was about his time in Burma as a colonial officer, and when he was tasked with the shooting of a rampaging elephant. And it's really, really interesting what the circumstance of the thing was. But we also have lots of other content, such as premium articles, which have audio tracks on them for our silver and gold subscribers. And we do premium podcasts about things that we don't really feel that we can put on YouTube or have done a particularly large amount of research into. And so it's worth keeping them slightly more private. And we also do lots of very interesting interviews, such as this one with comedian Steve Hughes, which was really fascinating because I didn't expect him to be a philosopher. But anyway.
Yeah. Also, the last thing to mention is the live event content we have. So we occasionally, when we get around to it, doing our live events, and the videos from them are on the website as premium, of course, because people came to see and paid. So go and check that out. This is on the worst of critical race theory.
Yes.
And I do mean the worst.
It's unconscionable.
Yeah. So if you'd like access to all that premium content, go to lotuseaters.com and subscribe. Thank you and goodbye.